In just 47 seconds, Stephen Colbert went from late-night host to the most hated man in Hollywood. What started as a simple question about Marvel movies turned into an absolute meltdown that had Samuel L. Jackson storming off the set while cameras were still rolling. The audience sat in stunned silence as one of the biggest movie stars on the planet called out Colbert for disrespecting him on live television. And what Colbert did next shocked everyone in that studio. Before we get into this explosive confrontation, make sure you subscribe to this channel. We bring you daily videos exposing Hollywood's darkest scandals, the confrontations they don't want you to see, and the moments that celebrities try to scrub from the internet. Hit that subscribe button right now, because this story is just the beginning. Last night's episode of The Late Show was supposed to be another celebrity appearance, another round of laughs, another promotional stop for Samuel L. Jackson's latest project. But what actually happened will go down as one of the most uncomfortable moments in late-night television history. From the moment Jackson walked onto that stage, something felt off. The energy was weird. Colbert seemed distracted, almost annoyed that he had to be there, and Jackson picked up on it immediately. The interview started normally enough. Colbert did his standard opening jokes. The audience laughed in all the right places, and Jackson sat down in the guest chair with his usual cool confidence. He was there to talk about his new action thriller, a film he'd been promoting all week on various shows. But Colbert barely let him get 2 sentences out before interrupting him. "So, Sam, another action movie," Colbert said with this dismissive tone that made the audience shift uncomfortably. "Don't you ever get tired of playing the same character over and over again?" Jackson's smile faded slightly. You could see it in his eyes. That question wasn't asked with curiosity. It was asked with judgment. But Jackson, being the professional he is, tried to brush it off with humor. "Well, Stephen, I don't know if you've noticed, but these same characters have made billions of dollars and entertained millions of people around the world," Jackson replied, keeping his voice steady. "So, no, I don't get tired of it. I love what I do." The audience clapped, sensing the tension but hoping it would pass. It didn't. Colbert leaned back in his chair, and instead of moving on to another topic like any normal host would do, he doubled down. "But come on, how many times can you say the same catchphrases before it gets old?" Colbert pressed, a smirk playing on his face like he thought he was being clever. "I mean, at some point, doesn't it feel like you're just cashing a check?" The audience went quiet. Dead quiet. That was not a playful jab between friends. That was a direct attack on Jackson's career, his choices, his entire body of work. Jackson sat forward in his chair, and his expression changed completely. The friendly movie star was gone. Now you were looking at someone who was genuinely pissed off. "Cashing a check?" Jackson repeated slowly, his voice getting lower. "Stephen, let me tell you something. Every role I take, every character I play, I give it everything I've got. I don't phone anything in. I show up, I do the work, and I respect the craft. So if you're sitting there thinking I'm just collecting paychecks, you don't know what the hell you're talking about." Colbert's smirk disappeared. He clearly wasn't expecting Jackson to come back at him that hard. The host tried to laugh it off, doing that nervous chuckle thing that people do when they realize they've stepped in it. But Jackson wasn't letting him off the hook. No, I want to understand this," Jackson continued, his voice getting more intense. "You brought me on your show, I came here as a guest, and you're sitting here disrespecting my work? In front of all these people? What kind of host is that?" Colbert tried to regain control of the interview. He put his hands up in a defensive gesture, still trying to play it off like it was all just fun and games. "Hey, Sam, I'm just asking questions," Colbert said, but his voice had an edge to it now. "That's what I do. I ask the tough questions. If you can't handle that, maybe you shouldn't be doing press." Oh, that was the wrong thing to say. The absolute wrong thing to say. Jackson's eyes went wide, and he actually laughed, but it wasn't a friendly laugh. It was the kind of laugh you hear before someone tells you exactly what they think of you. "If I can't handle it?" Jackson shot back. "Man, I've been in this business for decades. I've done hundreds of interviews. I've been asked every question you can imagine. But what I don't do is sit here and let some talk show host who's never made a movie in his life tell me about my career choices." The audience didn't know whether to gasp or applaud. Some people started clapping, but it was awkward, scattered applause because nobody knew if they were supposed to be supporting Jackson or staying neutral. Colbert's face was turning red. You could see the anger building behind his eyes. He wasn't used to guests fighting back like this. Usually, Celebrities just smile and laugh and promote their projects and leave. But Jackson wasn't playing that game. Colbert leaned forward, and his voice took on this condescending tone that made everything worse. Listen, Sam, I respect what you've done, but let's be honest here. You've been playing variations of the same angry guy for 20 years. Nick Fury, Jules in Pulp Fiction, Mace Windu. They're all just you yelling at people. There's no range there. That's not real acting. The studio went completely silent. Even the cameramen looked uncomfortable. What Colbert just said wasn't criticism. It was an insult. A direct, personal insult to one of the most respected actors in Hollywood. And Jackson was done being polite. No range? Jackson said, his voice dangerously quiet now. You want to talk about range? I've played everything from a drug addict to a superhero to a goddamn Jedi. I've done Shakespeare. I've done comedies, dramas, action films, everything. And you're sitting here reading jokes off a card that someone else wrote for you, telling me I have no range? Colbert's jaw clenched. The mask was off now. He wasn't pretending to be friendly anymore. Those jokes are written by a team of talented writers. Colbert snapped back. And at least I'm not pretending to be something I'm not. You act like you're this serious artist, but really, you're just a guy who shows up, says some cool lines, and collects a massive paycheck. Don't act like you're doing something important. That was it. That was the moment where the interview became something else entirely. Jackson stood up from his chair, and the audience audibly gasped. He wasn't storming off yet. He was standing there, looking down at Colbert, and the rage on his face was real. You know what your problem is, Stephen? Jackson said, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife. You think because you have this show, because you have this platform, that you can say whatever you want to whoever you want. You think you're untouchable. But let me tell you something. You just disrespected me on national television. You insulted my career, my work, everything I've built. And for what? For ratings? To make yourself feel important? Colbert stood up too, and now the two of them were face to face. The producers off camera were probably losing their minds, trying to figure out if they should cut to commercial or let this play out. They let it play out. I'm doing my job, Colbert said, his voice rising. I'm asking questions that people want to know the answers to. If you don't like it, that's your problem, not mine. Jackson laughed again. That same bitter laugh. People want to know? No, Stephen. You wanted to ask those questions because you thought it would make you look smart. You thought you could take a shot at me and I'd just sit there and take it. But I'm not one of your celebrity puppets who's going to smile and nod while you tear them down. Colbert pointed his finger at Jackson, his face flushed with anger. You think you're so special? You think because you've been in some popular movies that you're above criticism? Newsflash, Sam. You're not. And if you can't handle someone questioning your choices, maybe you should stick to doing movies where all you have to do is look angry and say badass lines. Oh wait, that's all you do anyway. The audience was in shock. Some people were booing now, but it was hard to tell if they were booing Jackson or Colbert. The whole thing had spiraled out of control so fast that nobody knew how to react. Jackson took a step back, and for a moment, it looked like he might actually take a swing at Colbert. But he didn't. Instead, he just shook his head and smiled this sad, disappointed smile. You know what, Stephen? I came here tonight to have a conversation, to talk about my work, to entertain your audience, to be a good guest. But you don't want that. You want conflict. You want drama. You want to be the guy who took down Samuel L. Jackson on your show. Well, congratulations. You got your moment. Colbert wasn't backing down, though. If anything, he seemed energized by the confrontation now, like he'd committed to being the villain and was going all in. My moment? Colbert shot back. This is your moment, Sam. This is the moment where everyone watching sees that the tough guy persona is just that. A persona. Because right now, you look like someone who can't handle a little criticism. You look weak. That word hung in the air like a bomb. Weak. Jackson's expression changed again. And this time, there was something cold and final in his eyes. I look weak? Jackson said quietly. No, Stephen. I look like someone who made a mistake coming on your show. I look like someone who thought you were a professional, but clearly I was wrong. What you look like is a bully with a microphone, and I don't have time for bullies. Jackson turned to walk off the stage, and that's when Colbert made his biggest mistake of the night. Instead of letting it end there, instead of cutting to commercial and salvaging what was left of the interview, he called out after Jackson. Oh, so you're just going to run away? That's real tough, Sam. Real brave. Can't handle a real conversation, so you're just going to storm off like a child? Jackson stopped dead in his tracks. He turned around slowly, and the look on his face made even Colbert take a step back. Run away? Jackson said, his voice shaking with anger now. Man, I've dealt with racism in this industry. I've dealt with being typecast. I've dealt with people telling me I'd never make it. I've fought for every single role I've ever gotten. I've earned my place in this business. And I'm not about to stand here and let you, of all people, question my toughness or my bravery. He walked back toward Colbert, and the host actually looked nervous for the first time all night. You want to know why I'm leaving? Jackson continued. It's not because I can't handle criticism. It's because I have enough self-respect to know when I'm being disrespected. And right now, you are disrespecting me, my career, and every single person who's ever supported my work. So yeah, I'm out of here. Not because I'm weak, but because I'm strong enough to know I don't have to put up with this bullshit. Colbert, desperate to maintain some control over the situation, tried one more time. Well, if you're leaving, then don't let the door hit you on the way out, Colbert said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. We don't need guests who can't handle the heat. Jackson stopped at the edge of the stage and turned back one last time. You're right about one thing, Stephen, Jackson said calmly. You don't need me, but let me tell you what you do need. You need to learn some respect. You need to learn that there's a difference between asking tough questions and being an asshole. And you need to learn that not everyone is going to sit there and smile while you tear them apart for your entertainment. The audience started applauding then, and it wasn't polite applause. It was loud, sustained clapping that clearly showed they were on Jackson's side. Colbert looked around at his own audience turning against him, and you could see the panic starting to set in. Oh, please, Colbert said, trying to laugh it off but failing miserably. You're all applauding someone who couldn't finish an interview? Really? But the applause got louder. Someone in the audience yelled, "We love you, Sam," and others joined in. It was becoming a disaster for Colbert, and he knew it. His face was bright red now, and the fake smile he'd been wearing all night was completely gone. Jackson nodded at the audience, acknowledging their support, and then looked back at Colbert one final time. I've been nothing but respectful to you since I walked out here, Jackson said. I answered your questions. I tried to have a conversation, but you came at me with disrespect from the start. You wanted this confrontation. You wanted to make me look bad. But all you did was show everyone watching what kind of person you really are. Colbert lost it then. Completely lost it. He slammed his hand on his desk, making everyone in the studio jump. You want to talk about what kind of person I am? Colbert shouted. At least I'm honest. At least I say what everyone else is thinking. You've been coasting on your reputation for years, showing up in movies, saying your lines, and pretending like you're still relevant. But the truth is, nobody cares anymore. Your time has passed. The audience booed loudly now. Someone yelled, "That's not true," and others joined in defending Jackson. But Colbert was too far gone to stop. He was in full meltdown mode. You know what? Colbert continued, his voice getting higher and more frantic. If you can't handle being on this show, then get the hell out. Go on, leave. Nobody's stopping you. In fact, I'm telling you to leave. You're off my show. Get out. Jackson just smiled and shook his head. Oh, now you're kicking me off? Jackson said with a laugh. That's cute, Stephen. Really cute. Acting like this was your decision. But we all know what really happened here tonight. We all saw you lose control. We all watched you attack a guest for no reason. And we all watched you show your true colors. Colbert pointed toward the exit, his hand shaking. Get out of my studio! Colbert yelled. Now! Jackson held up his hands in a gesture of surrender, but he was still smiling that knowing smile. I'm going, Stephen. Don't worry, I'm going. But before I do, I just want to say one more thing. He turned to address the audience directly. Thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you for your support. And I'm sorry you had to witness this. You all deserve better than what you got tonight. The audience erupted in applause again, many people standing up now, giving Jackson a standing ovation. Colbert stood there behind his desk, seething, watching his own audience turn completely against him. It was humiliating, and everyone could see it. Jackson started walking toward the exit for real this time, and as he did, Colbert couldn't help himself. He had to get the last word in. Yeah, walk away, Colbert shouted after him. Go back to making your generic action movies. See if anyone cares. Jackson paused at the exit, looked back over his shoulder, and said calmly, "Millions of people care, Stephen, but after tonight, I'm not sure anyone's going to care about you." And with that, Samuel L. Jackson walked off the Late Show stage while the audience continued to cheer for him and boo Colbert. The host stood there, alone behind his desk, realizing too late that he'd just made a massive mistake. He'd attacked one of Hollywood's most beloved actors for no good reason, lost control of his own show, and turned his entire audience against him in the process. As Jackson disappeared through the exit, Colbert tried to compose himself, tried to laugh it off, tried to make some joke about what had just happened, but nobody was laughing. The audience sat down slowly, the applause dying out, replaced by an uncomfortable silence that said everything about how badly Colbert had screwed up. The cameras cut away as Colbert awkwardly tried to transition to a commercial break, his voice shaking, his confidence completely shattered. What was supposed to be a simple promotional interview had turned into one of the most explosive confrontations in late-night television history. And it was all because Stephen Colbert decided to disrespect the wrong guest on the wrong night.